Hello everyone! Welcome once again to Brandao Collection. Today, we are actually going to go over a CGC haul that we just recently got in the mail. A few weeks ago, I sent out a few different comic books to get graded with CGC, and they just came in earlier today. So what I wanted to do was show them to the community here so you guys can see and be excited with me as well. Now, I cheated a little bit and I already opened the package and saw what the grades are, but to make it a little exciting for you, the viewer, what I'm going to do is I will talk a little bit about those books before I show them to you, and then what I'll do is I'll hide that grade so you can kind of see and think what it is, and then I'll reveal it to you so you can kind of see exactly what we got with our new CGC grades. Now, before we jump into that, if you like this type of content, like and subscribe to our channel. We're constantly doing videos like this, these haul videos, vlogs going out to different types of conventions, filming locations we've done before. We've also done our collection overview video. We have one that just recently went up earlier this month. So we'll have that ability for you to have other types of content here as we continue to grow our channel. So what we'll do now is we will jump into those books we got into the collection. All right, so the first book that we got here in the collection is the only DC book that we got, that we sent in. And I don't have a lot of DC books. I mainly collect Marvel keys, Marvel Silver Age, up to even Modern in those cases. But I do have a few different Silver Age Batman books that I really treasure because Batman's my favorite on the DC side of things. So I wanted to send in one of my favorite covers and one of my favorite Batman villain appearances. So this first book, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start from the book that is the lowest grade, and we'll end on the book that got the highest grade out of the 5 books that we got today. So this first book is right here, is Batman 189, which is the first Silver Age appearance of the Scarecrow. So one of my favorite Batman villains, one of the best, I would say, in general. And I really love this cover as well. Now, for our grade, like I said, it is the lowest out of the books that we got today. And that grade is going to be, drum roll please, is going to be a 3.5, which actually, based on the condition of this book at the time when I sent it in, I actually think that's pretty much higher than I thought it was going to be, just kind of being an amateur grader and taking a look at all the different kind of imperfections on this book when I was looking through it before sending it in. It's got some water damage, it's got some damage to the spine, to the kind of the sides all the way around, and even, I'll flip it over here, even to the back. You can kind of see some water damage there on the edges. But overall, a great book, and I love having it now protected here in the collection. So this is our lowest graded one. So let's actually move on to the next thing. All right, so the next book, jumping now into our Marvel stuff. Now we're jumping into one of my personal favorite Marvel characters. Now, this particular book is a book that I was searching for a long time when I first started collecting comic books. A book that I had on my kind of top list that I needed to have in the collection just because it was a character that I've always loved ever since I was a kid and when I first started getting into Marvel Comics. And so a couple years ago near Comic-Con, I went to every single booth that I could think of throughout there, jumped around to different places, and by the end of that weekend, I finally found a good deal at one of those comic booths. And what that was for a book that is exploding right now as well, which is Marvel Spotlight number 5, which is the first appearance of the Ghost Rider, the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, the original. So this is my original copy that I bought at New York Comic Con a few years ago when I was looking around, my only copy of this book. And I was very excited to have this one. I've had this one proudly displayed in my collection for many years, just kind of raw, in a protected case, of course, but I've had it out and about, and I decided now was the time, since I was sending in all these books, now was the time to go get it graded, have it protected, as it is one of my favorite Marvel characters, one of my favorite keys I have in the collection. And what we got here was a 5.0. Now, for this book, based on what it's worth right now, even at a 5.0, I paid significantly less at the time compared to what this is worth right now. So all these books that I've gotten graded, I don't plan on selling them. These are books from my own personal collection. These are books that are important to me, characters that are important to me, books that I wanted to protect. I can still read these, of course, if I wanted to online or in other ways, but I wanted to protect these books and kind of keep a good way to have them for future reference, so I can always look at them, have them a nice way to display them, and make sure they stay the way they are at the time of when they were slabbed. So here we go, Marvel Spotlight 5, first Ghost Rider. All right, so now that we've gone through and we've kind of talked about these different those are more kind of silver into bronze age types of books. Now we're getting more into the modern type of stuff. I would say 90s up to the 2000s. So now we're getting into our higher grades. So we have 3 books left. And the first book, another character that was very important to me growing up, in my starting my love for comic books and specifically Marvel. So one of the things that really got me into comic books were all the different animated series in the 90s. So you have the Batman the Animated Series, you have the Spider-Man Animated Series, and in this case you have the X-Men Animated Series. And for this book, we have X-Men 266, which is the first full appearance of Gambit. And his wonderful, this iconic Gambit cover here as well. So we actually got even as well, we have up there at the top, we have the custom X-Men label from CGC too. I went a little crazy there just because I thought it's an important book. And they had that available, of course. So let's see what we got. So now we're in our higher grades, and we got here an 8.5. Fantastic. Now, I'll tell you a little story about this particular copy of this book. So a few years ago, what happened was I was part of a flea market, a geek flea, in a local town. And the way that is that you sell different pop culture and geeky related items. So I had a table selling some of my extra toys and other miscellaneous things that I've collected over the years. And at the same time, the town that this flea market was in was having a garage sale, a town-wide garage sale. So everybody in the town, if they wanted to, they could put their stuff out on their lawn and sell it as part of this town-wide event. My family let me know that they passed by a house that had a couple long boxes on their lawn. So I had to jump over there and have somebody take over our booth, take a look, and drive over to that house to see what they may have in there. And I get over there, there's a couple different long boxes. Mostly everything I'm going through is your 90s typical kind of dollar bin stuff, nothing too crazy, all your high print run things that you normally see when it comes to the early to mid 90s comic runs, whether it be DC or Marvel. But as I'm making my way through there, I'm grabbing some kind of just random Spider-Man covers I really like in there, nothing too crazy. And I come across this book. This book is in the back of one of those long boxes. And I grab it and I go, wow, this is actually in a pretty good condition considering the box that it's in. The thing's doesn't even have a board. It's in a bag, but there's no board on it. And I'm like, wow, it's okay, it's great. So I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to see how much this guy wants for this book. So I get over there, I walk up to the guy, I have a pile of a couple different random things. This is the most kind of biggest key of everything I grabbed. And I ask him how much for the whole pile. And he actually took the pile from me, looked through them, saw which books were in there. And he looked at me and he goes, $15 for the whole pack. And I say, no problem, here you go. So I hand him the cash, I put it in my backpack, I put it in a nice safe place, and I head back to the flea market that I had my table at, and I was like, wow, I got a great deal on this book, $15 for a pack of this plus a couple other random Spider-Mans and other Marvel stuff. I was really excited to get this one in the collection, so sent it out, and even after a few years just kind of keeping it safe in my short box there, it still came out to an 8.5. So happy to have a story behind this, and happy to have it encapsulated now, so we have it keeping at this grade. So that is our X-Men 266. Now, the last two books here are the highest of the high of the grades of what we have today, at least. And in those cases, they both have a theme. So they kind of go along with, if you've been paying attention, if you're a regular viewer here on our channel, you know exactly who my personal favorite superhero is. And my personal favorite superhero is Spider-Man. I'll give you a little time there. And Spider-Man, I have been collecting Spider-Man for a long time, whether even before I was collecting comic books, collecting just random Spider-Man memorabilia, and then when I was able to start collecting comics, now getting into those key books in the Silver Age, all the way up to books in the modern times. But this first book is a book that's exploding right now due to kind of the spec and to an upcoming movie that we have even later this year. And that is going to be Amazing Spider-Man 361, which is the first appearance of Carnage. A wonderful cover, one of the most iconic Spider-Man covers. I really love this cover. I love the colors. I love just the way that it's displayed. I've always enjoyed this one. I actually have a couple different copies of this one. I have this one. I have, of course, the second print with the silver backing instead of the white. This was another one just like that Gambit. Here, we'll actually adjust there. That I was able to get the custom Spider-Man label there from CGC. So we have there at the top. So now, once again, we'll do our drum roll again. And in those cases, we have a 9.4. Wow. I was shocked when I opened the box and I saw this was a 9.4 because when I was looking through it, I try to be very gracious with and kind of conservative when it comes to grading and on my own personal level, because I'm an amateur grader. I've been collecting for a long time. I always look for certain things, but I can't say that I'm professional enough to really be specific as the graders at these grading companies. But when I was grading this, I was being very conservative and thinking that this was going to be in the 8s. So maybe the high 8s, but somewhere in the 8s. And when I opened the box and I saw that this was a 9.4, wow. I mean, I was floored just because of my expectations of what I thought it was going to be. So this is really, really great. Very excited to have this one. I bought this book for less than $100 a few years ago. It's a lot more than that is now, just raw. Like, forget about graded. So very excited to keep the value on this book, no matter which way it kind of fluctuates over the years, especially with the craziness of the market right now. But once again, it's not about even the value of how much it is, but I mean, it feels nice for something to have a good value just because it makes you feel a little validated collecting all these things by the value going up. But this is for my personal collection and just something great. Now I have a nice high-graded Venom, Carnage, I should say. Well, it's part of Venom. A nice high-graded Carnage that I can have here in the collection. That was one that I personally had for a long time and sent in myself instead of just buying it graded already. I have one I sent in, got a nice good grade on that. So that is our Spider-Man 361, First Carnage. So now we're going to head on to our final book. All right, so our final book of the night is going to be a modern book. So this is a book that is mostly modern. I'll throw a little clues in here. It is a book that came out in 2014. It is a book that's continuing to grow in popularity because the character involved with it is a very big character in the current Marvel kind of market and based on people just kind of getting into Marvel fandom. So this is a character that has not shown up in live action yet, at least in this form, but has shown up in a movie that was very good and very popular. If you've guessed it, if you did guess it, put it in the comments below that you got it before I announce it. You got it? Okay, put it in the comments below. Good? Okay. Now we'll see it. It is Edge of Spider-Verse, number 2, the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. So now Gwen Stacy, of course, has been a staple of Spider-Man since the very beginning. One of Spider-Man's first love interests. And of course, she got new popularity over the last few years, becoming Spider-Gwen in various different ways. Of course, popularity from the book itself. I know a lot of cosplayers really honed in on Spider-Gwen and made that one of their kind of go-to characters for a long time. And of course, she gained even more popularity when she showed up in the Spider-Verse animated film, which is what I was mentioning about before. So hopefully we see her in this kind of iteration as we continue moving forward with not just the animated Spider-Verse series, but maybe sometime in the future we see her show up in the MCU. Who knows? Anything is possible, especially if we're going to get a Spider-Verse at some point. But here, this being the highest graded book out of all the books that we got here, we're going to do another drum roll, the final one for this video, and it is a 9.6. Great. I really, really am happy with that. When I was grading it, I was kind of looking at it back and forth and thinking, okay, it's riding that line between a 9.6 and a 9.8. I'm leaning more towards the 9.6, just based on what I saw on the inside of the book before I sent it, looking at the spine, kind of things on the back there as well. Like I said, I'm very conservative when it comes to that because I'm always worried I'm grading too high. So I try to grade a little bit, maybe a point down or even half a point down than what I really think it is. But in this case, I was right about where it is, what I was guessing, just looking at it. But here we go. We have a 9.6 Edge of Spider-Verse number 2, I should say, first print. In those cases, because there were multiple prints of this one. So if you see all those different colors at the bottom here for the same cover, the white one here is the first print of this book. If you see any other colors, those are your additional prints after that. So if you're looking for this book, look for the white print there at the bottom, that white kind of bar across the bottom, and that's going to be your giveaway that this is the first print of this particular book. So that is our last book that we got graded. Overall, very, very happy with the books that we got here in the collection, those books that we got in, and the grades that they received. I'm not a big person that I need a 9.8 on everything. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect for every single book. I'm just happy with the way those covers present. I'm happy to have them in the collection. For me, it's really important about the history of these characters, especially with your first appearances and your keys, and really having something to kind of start a conversation and say, oh, wow, that's the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. That's the first appearance of the Ghost Rider. That's the first appearance of Wolverine, the Punisher, any of those different things. And no matter what the grade may be, it's a nice little kind of thing to have there to start that conversation with fellow kind of geeks and fellow comic book nerds that really love this stuff, whether you be somebody who's reading comic books since you were a child, somebody who just got into these characters based on the films, or anything kind of in between from your interaction with these characters and those movies and those different storylines. In those cases, I want to thank you again for spending some time with us. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification to be notified when we post new content. We're constantly posting new content here on our channel, whether it be haul videos just like this, or even additional types of videos, including interviews with fellow collectors, comic book hauls. We have collection room updates. We just recently posted one about a few weeks ago. And we even have other big plans coming in the future. So you do not want to miss some of those big plans we have and some great content we have coming for you in the future. So stick here at Brandao Collection for everything you need when it comes to being informed about all things geeky and pop culture. And as always, keep on collecting.